Okay, here we go. This is our Q&A session for April, and I cannot wait to see what your questions are. Here we go. Josh is going to read them out, and I'll answer them.
Awesome. Charlie, it was so much fun to see the chat and everyone providing questions. So I'm going to go from the first one that I received, which is how do I effectively measure the impact of environmental changes on student behavior over time?
Well, you know what? You have a lot of data already. So start with the data that you already have. I mean, a lot of times we have principals and district leaders saying that I have panorama data or we've taken climate surveys or whatever. We've got the data. But how do we measure that over time? Well, use what you already have. Don't do too much extra work because we're busy people. But then you could do a quick poll. You could do the check in and check out process that we shared in this session. You could you could just do a Google form. I mean, just keep it really simple, but just ask a couple of questions so it's not overwhelming. Just stick with a couple of things. So, how are you feeling? How are you feeling based on when we started? Do you use language from the environment inventory and use language from the relationship inventory? Do you feel like there's coherence in your classroom if you're asking staff? You can just use the same language. What for younger kids, you can just, of course, how do you feel happy? Do you feel connected? Do you feel like you want to be there? Do you trust your teacher? Those kinds of things. If you're in the situation like Miguel was in, and he knew that kids were feeling intimidated, he might go in and ask them, do the check in and check out process. How are you feeling when you're in this space? And then create some rapport, create some conversation around that. And then over time, don't be sarcastic. Make sure you're showing up for them in the way they need you to based on that conversation. And then over time, afterwards, you can just ask them, how are you feeling now? I mean, you can extend that. So there's lots of little ways to measure it, but really just start small and just find out the little pieces is use the same kind of language that you were using on the relationship inventory and the environment inventory.
Wonderful. All right, second question. What are some low-cost practical adjustments I can make if my classroom resources are limited?
Oh, everybody always has limited resources in their classrooms. No problem. Get out the relationship inventory. Start there. We always want to build connection. Just start with what you've got. You don't have to do too much here. Just have a conversation, have a circle of kids and go through it, have them check it, or give it to the kids individually and have them check off what does your teacher do and have them submit it. You don't even have to ask them to put their name on it. Use what we're just giving you right here. Do that with the other inventory too. The environment inventory will give you a lot of information. And then what you'll do over time is you might collect it. Let's say you're a classroom teacher, because you're going to do this as a leader too with your staff, by the way. You can use it this way. But you can give your kids the environment inventory just looking at sensory surges. So you just tell them what a sensory surge is and tell them what a calm current is. Tell them what those are, and then have them fill out what's going on in your classroom. What is a sensory surge, and what's your experience? And then collect it at different times throughout the school year, different terms, and then see if they're feeling different ways and what they're putting on there. But also what you can do is collect this over time. Just imagine if you collected this over a few years in each of your classes, you can see what the patterns are and then just adjust your practice or at least adjust your conversation. Remember, we're just considering what's going on in the environment that's influencing behavior. And these are simple tools you can do, and they don't cost anything extra. You got them. Use the check in and check out process. You can always just ask kids questions or adults questions. What do you need? What am I missing? That doesn't cost anything. Just get curious about what's going on, step outside of yourself and think of what you're doing that might be contributing or what's missing. Keep it so simple, but it doesn't have to be more expensive at all.
I think it's a perfect segue to the next question. So this one is, can you share examples of specific sensory tools or decorations that can help reduce anxiety in students?
Yeah, so let's think of decorations first. No matter what, try to have more white space than you already have. Think about that for a second. You notice my slides were very crisp and clean for a reason. They had a lot of white space. I don't put a lot of wording on there. So, and then that's just a darn slide. But imagine the space that you're setting up in your office. Imagine the worksheets that you're giving. Imagine the wall space. The desk, I know we have like cluttered space because our numbers are outrageous sometimes. So you can't always control that. But what can you control? And always ask kids, like, what do you want? What do you need? One of the things I always used to do, and I did this even with 18-year-olds, you guys. I taught high school and I did this with 18-year-olds. I would put a basket of supplies in on their desks, or like I would have them put their four desks together, but often I had tables, to be honest. I had a lot of tables. And so I would put a basket of supplies. I'd put pencils, colored pencils. I put sometimes glue sticks because I tried to make things fun and playful when we could. I would put little rocks that they're smooth and sometimes actually that had texture. I put pipe cleaners. Pipe cleaners are so inexpensive, but you can do so much with pipe cleaners. You can do conceptual stuff with them, but really you can just have kids pick them up and play with them in their hands and their fingers and just like they're just smooth to touch. There's different textures of them. What you have to, of course, be careful with of what are they going to do? You already know the answer to this, especially if you teach younger kids. Yes, they're going to poke each other with it. So if they do that, they just lose the privilege of having them, but they'll want them back. So they will behave with them most of the time. You also have to be cautious with kids who are struggling with self harm. You may know and you may not know, but just be careful because some kids will wrap them around their finger too much and they're trying to get feedback there or feel pain or feel sensation. That is a communication you need to have with the school counselor, the school therapist, if you can. If you're noticing a pattern there, just be careful about that. But give them supplies that are right there. Those are all cheap things. Let's talk about the pencil thing real quick. I never cared if kids forgot their darn pencil. I know there's a lot of philosophy around there, but it just cost me so much transition time, so much frustration when I cared about that. I had a teacher and a fourth grade teacher who used to say, if you borrow a pencil, you got to give me your shoe. I love that. I thought that was really fun. I don't know today if you could do that anymore in today's classrooms. I think parents would probably complain about that, but I thought that was fun. So get creative, be playful about it. Kids are going to forget their pencils, you know. And having said that, oh my gosh, Josh, this brings me back to this. We still do need pencil and paper stuff. Like there's so many screens going on for kids. And when I say kids, I mean adults too, young adults, even in our college classrooms. Try to get back to having them write things down because there is still evidence to show that we retain information in our long-term memories when we do write things down. It's another piece to the puzzle. You can have a screen still, but incorporate more of that. So I know that's a long answer, but there's just so much we can do. There's a lot we can do.
For sure. All right, let's talk about the environment some more. So, how do you involve students in redesigning or optimizing the classroom environment?
Ask them, ask them, ask them to draw out the perfect classroom. Always let them know I'm not going to be able to do all of this for you, especially put a hot tub in the classroom. That probably won't happen. But if there are some things that you would like to see, what would that be like? And let's be reasonable. So we did this with staff as well. I would say, okay, if you had an unlimited budget, what would you love to have in your classroom? I'm telling you, many of them still just said like a stapler. Or many of them still said a copier that works on the first floor. Like, come on. So they, even when they have a large budget, it's actually not outlandish what they're asking for. But for kids, ask them what they would like to have in there to make their learning environment more engaging, more interesting, something that they would like to look at that would help them. Some of these things I've seen in professional development sessions I've gone to is they would have these great placemats to doodle or write down cool information or what are 5 concepts you learned in the last week about what we're talking about and just make it inviting. Those are so cheap and easy to do, but kids just need to have input there. So just ask them. You can do a quick Google poll or do one of those mentees to ask them what they want to do, or just have a conversation with them. Get in a circle, put their chairs in a circle, stand around the classroom. You can't always put your chairs that way. Stand in the classroom and have a conversation for 5 minutes. Hey guys, I'm really trying to consider what would be better for our classroom to make it more engaging, more interesting for you to learn. What would that be? And they will just appreciate giving voice to that. And again, school leaders, we need to do that with staff as well. Do that with your staff as well. Do a quick poll with a Google poll, quick email, unless you don't want a ton of emails back, which I get. But just stand there and ask them too. Um, there's a lot we can do when we ask people. It does so much more than helps us learn. And let me say this other piece. This kind of goes with the other one as well. The last question. But something you can do to bring calm into a space very easily is allow students and you and you to create a mental escape space. Now, I just got back from the beach, right? I've been to the beach a million times. This is my happy place. And every time I go, I try to absorb all of the senses. What am I seeing? What am I hearing? I do this with my kids. Notice what the sounds are, what the smells are. Take it all in because you'll remember that. Your brain will remember that later. And it can bring a calming, soothing reaction or response, really, in your body. And that's what we need. So it's a mental escape space if we allow kids and adults to go back to that memory by having them actually put it on paper, allow them, give them markers or colored pencils, whatever, to sketch it out and actually draw it. And what we used to do is, and I did this too, I would put mine at the back of the room so that I could actually look at it when I needed that reminder to just find my calm. Find my calm and allow students to do that too. Give them a vantage point in the room to allow them to hang theirs up too. Those are just a few things, but really just ask them what they need.
All right, this one just came in the Q&A section. So I think this is part of the environment still. So can the physical environment support both academic engagement and emotional regulation?
Always. Absolutely. First of all, when we're more regulated, because our physical space feels calm, those calm currents are going through the environment and we feel safe. We feel like we're in a predictable environment. It's consistent. We know what to expect. We know where the signs are to leave the room. We know how to go to the bathroom. We know what all those rules and regulations are. We know we're accepted. Those are all very calming in our physical space because it's a part of what we're doing. And so when we can feel that way in the physical space, when we're not having all those sensory surges going on, right? Think about it, boom, 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 like our nervous system is calm and not on edge, then that allows space in our brains to access focus. So when I'm working with students with ADHD or have high anxiety. I mean, all of us have anxiety, so this will benefit everybody. But kids and adults who are more susceptible to higher anxiety levels, well, of course, what the first thing we do is bring awareness to how your body's feeling. There's a brain body connection. And so, absolutely, when our physical space feels secure, then we can access the academic part of our brain that we need to do well in school. And so, um, one thing you can do is just look around the room and name objects. You don't have to name them out loud. You don't have to say it out loud. But if you're struggling, if you're noticed, like, oh my gosh, I have a sensory surge, or I feel overwhelmed, I can't focus on what the teacher's saying, or you're in a staff meeting and you can't focus on what your principal is saying, then you can look around the room, find a color. I need to find something that's red, find the color red. Or I'm just looking around the room, there's a lamp. Just say it in your head. It brings awareness so that then you can access the prefrontal cortex. This is what we want our students to do. If they get to a place of awareness, they can then access the prefrontal cortex, which is where all the executive functions are. That's why I mentioned ADHD, because they are often having deficits in the executive function. So we get awareness, get their senses all calm. Believe it or not, when you're drawing, that's one thing that might have been going on with Jessa in our last session when we talked about Jessa. It actually was. That was a real case study. And when she was drawing, she was bored because she was highly intelligent. She had already understood what the teacher was trying to teach well in advance of the rest of the class. And so she would draw to free up her time, right? But she was also listening. So any extra things that the teacher was trying to teach, she would still catch them because she was able to settle and calm that part of her brain or her body. And then access the part of her brain to think and hear what the teacher, like, to capture some of the extra pieces. So she was doing, she was just managing herself there. And so we need to look at those things that kids are doing in the space and just consider that it actually might be helpful to them, before we make an unfair judgment about it. So again, there's so much we can say, but absolutely, the answer is yes. There is a physical connection to in your environment to the academic needs and the behaviors.
All right, you discussed some challenges with the sensory tools, but will you just talk about the challenges that our teachers might face when integrating rapid resets into daily transitions and how can they overcome it?
Yeah. So rapid resets, we haven't even talked about yet, but it's something I use all the time. And if you've seen me speak, I'm sure you've seen the finger thumb switch. And if not, you can try it right now. You go like this and then you switch. It's really great for focus. And you're not going to do it well the first time because your brain isn't wired that way, but eventually you can. And it's called a rapid reset because it's how we alter the energy in our space. So, our physical space, our social space, and the way we can use it is like our physical space. If you notice that the energy level is really high and it's like high energy, you're like, oh my gosh, I can't stand all the noise. I can't stand all the movement. And movement can be noise too, by the way. If you want that calming environment, you'll use a rapid reset. So, you could do this. You could do finger thumb pinch. This is really good for people who have anxiety too. You just have them pinch the end of their fingers like this. You can do thumb drum like this. Okay. You can do left hand, have them look at it, right hand, both. Okay. So those are all examples of rapid resets that can help with the physical environment to shift the energy from high to low. Or if the low, like you have a low mood, you can raise the energy level up as well. And also for the social space, if you need to be more playful, if you need to get laughing, certainly do some of those things too, because oh my gosh, your kids are going to engage more. And by the way, leaders need to do this with staff members too. It's just gets us thinking. It changes the environment altogether and influences behavior, mood, attitude, all of it. So what's the challenge? Well, sometimes some people won't be in the mood to do that rapid reset that you're trying to do. So that might be one challenge. Fine. So, oh well. For them, maybe they're doing just fine, and you doing this might annoy them even more. Let them have space to not do that. That's not a big deal, right? Sometimes you'll do one that you say close your eyes if you want them to do visualization, which is absolutely fine. But don't make kids or adults that you're working with close their eyes. The dark can be a very scary place for some people. So you can also have them look down to the ground or find a focal point in the room or close their eyes and just give them the options. So when you are faced with challenges where people don't want to do what you're asking them to do with a rapid reset, for example, it's okay. Like, let that go. That's not the end of the world. We don't always need compliance. In fact, when we give them choice to engage or not in those things, then it gives them a sense of agency and they feel empowered in the space with you, and you're building rapport and trust. And again, you're building predictability. So anytime I would say, let's do this rapid reset. Okay, I noticed that the energy in the room is really high. Not everyone in the room is yelling or screaming or loud or silly, right? Not everybody is. So you're bringing the level down of those kids who need it the most or want to engage. And so the other kids already are there and they appreciate that I'm giving them that space. It's predictable for them that, oh my gosh, if I don't want to do this particular one, I don't have to right now. So just consider all of those things and what's the most important and not. So again, there's so much more we could talk about with that, but I'll stop there because I know there's a lot.
Yeah, you talked about leadership. So I'm going to pull a leadership question. So for our leaders, how do they ensure consistency in using the different strategies across a variety of classes or grade levels?
So this one is interesting. So how do we ensure consistency? Well, every classroom is going to be different. Every kid is going to be different in a classroom space. So do we want all teachers to be doing the exact same things with their students? Do we want everybody doing the same thing all the time? I mean, here's an argument I have with things that like Wellness Wednesdays. They're great. Don't get me wrong. Anything that we do that helps bring awareness to wellness, I'm on board. The problem is we think that if we do Wellness Wednesdays, that everyone's mental health is going to be great. The problem is that it is a blanket solution that leaves a lot of people out and is misunderstood. So the rapid resets, for example, are really good. It's kind of like a brain break, but what brain breaks do is again, they may be predictable when you do that, but they may not be assessing the need at the time. So the reset is what we're really looking for is what is that energy level that we need to maintain in order to have that academic engagement, because what we need in a school, right? And so we can be consistent in a few different ways, but not in a way that everyone has to do the same thing. So the teacher is consistent when they understand who's in their classroom and when they need to use that rapid reset, for example. So if they notice that the kid sitting in the corner really struggles with movement, they sit too long, you know they're going to get squirrely and they're probably going to start overreacting about certain things or just kind of climb the ladder of conflict, then I might stop what I'm doing and I might address that kid's need with the whole class. I'm not going to call them out. I'm going to do it with the whole class. So I'm still creating consistency because I'm addressing my students' needs. So it's really a conversation that leaders need to have. We need to also be consistent in giving teachers the space for their own professionalism and their own personality and the freedom to use that when they need the shift of energy too. That's really where consistency of leadership needs to come in my opinion.
All right, let's keep on with administration and leadership. So, what role does administration play in supporting environmental adjustments?
Permission to use them, permission to have your own judgment around them or to introduce new information, introduce new ideas that maybe we haven't tried yet because what I've been trying with this kid isn't working. I've been talking with their parents, their behavior still isn't shifting, it's still not working. I don't know what to do. So it's really good for a leader to have these conversation starters like what do you need? What do you think the kid needs? Have you asked them? Have you talked to the caregivers? Have you talked to other teachers? And so the conversation is about how do we how do we utilize what you are already doing well, your strengths, and start from there. What about the kids' strengths? What are the other recommendations? Do you have any ideas? So that is what I would come to a leader with is how do we do that? And then maybe we do need to add that consistency back. Well, are you doing check-ins? Can you start doing check-ins? How can we start? How can I come in and help you with the 5 minute kind of pulling the kid out when a kid is having misbehavior? And how can I support you by coming into your class and watching over your class or getting one of our team members to come in there, the push, right? The push in model and um, and and then having time to work with a kid on your own. So as I'm saying this out loud, there's just so many scenarios where this shows up, and you can probably see me working through some of that. But there's a lot of what leaders do is really about working with people's strengths and having the conversation about what is working already and what can we try that we haven't done yet. Because guess what? It's not always about fixing the kid or fixing what's going on in the classroom. It's like, that's why we say, consider the environment. Consider how you might be showing up. Let's just look into that a little bit further. So some questioning is really important and some just quick framework, like some easy frameworks to use would be helpful.
Yeah. So, there's a lot of different educational environments. This question is, how can these strategies be adapted for virtual or hybrid learning settings to maintain a calm, supportive environment?
Oh my gosh, they're all adaptable. It's great. And again, different age groups too, but in a virtual setting, you can still do the check-ins. You saw me do it in the last session, in the learning session, if you were there. And I used the chat. Of course, those are easy ways, but also giving people like walking them through. So predictability and consistency is showing them what to expect in their environment, which could be on the screen, which could be in the program. Also, we want to link in as many people as we can in the virtual setting, especially. So, if we're teaching a kid, we want to try to link in their parent or caregiver. We want to also link in any support staff to understand what that environment is that they're learning in is what they to expect. But I will also say this, that check-in and check-out process is really helpful in a learning environment because it starts conversation and it creates a safe, secure space to show some personalization there that might feel very disconnected otherwise. And so that's what I love starting with that check-in. How are you feeling? Put it in the chat, say it out loud. I notice on your face today, you're looking a little different than what you put in the chat. Are you sure? Is that matching up? So there's a lot of way we can use it as a teaching moment or also to call a kid out in a way that you're saying, I'm watching you because I care about you, not in a creepy way. And I'm watching you because I notice a shift. And so when kids hear that you noticed a shift in them, that means you've been paying attention to them all along. And so that's how we create that trust and that predictability there that you can create in that physical space, but you can also do that in the virtual space. So going back to that that check in and check out. When you ask them what is something that you're looking forward to on the way out, it also helps you ensure that they're leaving there with something positive. And when they feel positive in a space with you, they're going to want to come back to that space with you each and every time. And I told you, they will call you out when you don't use those questions. If you use the same questions over and over and you forget one, they will call you out because they now are acclimated to that space that you set up for them that is safe and secure and predictable. So I love that. The virtual setting is a great space that you can absolutely create this connection.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate everyone putting their items in the Q&A section for the webinar. Charlie, this is the last question that I have. How can teachers advocate for these changes in our schools?
Yeah, I mean, just start using them yourself and show others how they're working for you. I mean, the best way to do that is to start doing it and notice what changes are happening as a result and notice how you're changing. Notice how you're feeling about it. It will absolutely make a difference. All of these small things that you're doing, even if you incorporate one new rapid reset, if you do the thumb drum, if you just start there, it's so easy. It doesn't cost anything. Or if you put pipe cleaners on your desk for kids and let them play with them while you're talking and say, hey, listen, I know that sometimes you're sitting for a while. This will keep your hands busy. This will get that energy out, especially if you have kids with ADHD. They hold a lot of tension in their hands that I'm finding. Give them an out. No matter what you do, start somewhere small, but notice the changes of other people responding to how you're looking out for them. And it all goes back to academics. I know in school we have to talk about academics. When you reach them on that emotional level, when you notice those sensory surges and try to put those calm currents in their place, or you're asking questions to see what's good for them, all of those things are building trust, rapport, consistency. When you do that yourself, you're going to share that feeling and that experience with your colleagues and with your leaders, and they will absolutely want to emulate that. They'll want a piece of that too. And ask them just to try it. Show them in a staff meeting. Say, hey, can I show you one strategy I've been using that is working really well? Give them an example. Use a case study of your own and show them how it's working. And they will absolutely want to follow because they want to feel this way too. They want to feel this way too.
Awesome. Well, those are all the questions that I got, and I just wanted to thank everyone for both going in the chat, but also the Q&A section and providing those questions.
Yeah, thank you all so much for being here. Truly, these are great questions, and I'm glad you're thinking about this because we're all in this together. I'm learning from you just as much as you're learning from me. So make sure you go to the Thriving Educator community and put your questions there too. Anything that you've learned, any of your celebrations, please go there. I know that you've got a lot to share with other people, and just keep coming back here and doing all that incredible work that you're doing. Thank you so much.